Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We are looking forward to a very exciting discussion as everyone is logging in and getting comfortable with the GoToWebinar platform. This would be a great time to test out your chat functionality and get familiar with the features here. On the right-hand panel, you should see two tabs. There's a questions tab and a chat tab. So in either one of those, if you want to go ahead and test it out, it's kind of fun to see where everyone is calling in from today. So go ahead and drop your location if you feel comfortable doing so, just to make sure that the question functionality is working for you. While we wait for a few more people to hop in, my name is Savannah Klaus, and I'm one of the partner managers here at Verified First. I oversee our partnership with Namely, so thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to a very exciting discussion. I see here that we have some locations in. We have St. Louis, Reno, Columbia, Buffalo. I love this. Temple, Texas, and California. We're covering the whole US today, so welcome everyone. Cherry Hill, New Jersey, nice. Virginia, San Marcos, another Texas attendee. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm glad the question functionality is working for you. We are very excited and happy to partner with Namely today in a webinar to discuss streamlining communication throughout the hiring process and how integrations play a vital role. Before we dive in, we just have a quick few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and we will be sending out a copy of that recording after the webinar. With that, we encourage you to share this recording with any team members or colleagues that you feel may benefit from what we'll be discussing today. Also, if you do have any questions, we'll provide contact information on the last slide of today's presentation so that you can reach out to Verified First. And then the reminder that there is the Q&A panel on the right-hand side. So as we go along, if you do have any questions that come up, please feel free to jump in and submit those to us by using the question functionality. We have time allotted at the end for Q&A, so I will try to get to as many of those questions as possible, but feel free to submit questions throughout the entire presentation. They'll stay in there until the very end when we address them. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started today. Thank you so much again for joining us. We have some great content prepared for today's discussion. As I mentioned, I'm the partner manager overseeing the Namely partnership. If you've attended webinars with Verified First and Namely in the past, you may have become familiar with Brett, one of our other partner managers. He has transitioned to a new position within Verified First, so now I'm overseeing the Namely partnership, and I'm super excited to work with the Namely team and all of you guys attending today. I've been a partner manager with Verified First for a little over a year now, and I've genuinely enjoyed working with my colleagues and my partners, and such as Namely, to put out webinars throughout the year in various topics in the HR, talent acquisition, and background screening spaces. And I'm so excited to have Stephanie Komnick join us today, who is our partner manager supervisor here at Verified First. Steph, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks, Savannah. Quick little intro of myself. I am the supervisor over here over all the partner managers. I've been with Verified First for about 4.5 years now. I actually started on the account management team, so was definitely supporting clients like yourself, the people that were using our services, asking all the questions about background screening. So I'm excited to be here today to help share all the wonderful information we're going to go through, but then also help answer any questions as well. So thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm so excited that you're here as well. Right, let's go over a quick agenda. We are going to touch on making the most of your job description, communicating often and quickly with candidates and with your internal teams. We will cover pre-employment screening and how that plays a role into communication and the onboarding process. And then we're going to touch on automation as well and integrating your tech stack. And then at the end, I'm going to do a brief demo of our solution directly within Namely's platform. And then we'll have a few minutes, maybe like 5 or 10 minutes for a Q&A at the end. And that's what our day is going to look like. So let's go ahead and get started. So We'll start it off strong. Let's get started. First up on streamlining communications in your hiring process is, making the most of your job description. It seems super obvious, but job descriptions are often still viewed as a requirement instead of an opportunity to take advantage of in the hiring process. So we have to remember that a job description is the first touch an employee may have with you and your organization. So it's crucial that you make the most of it and for the rest of the hiring process to follow effectively in its path. There's a plethora of research out there regarding job descriptions and how to maximize the impact that they have on sourcing top talent. It's found that 60% of job seekers won't bother to apply if the description is too long. I know in today's world, we're like, okay, I want the information, I want it now, I want, bullet points, like what do I need to know? And it's found that 70% of millennials said that along with job security, salary was the most important deciding factor when considering whether they want to work for a company. So, your job description matters. Essentially, it's basically your landing page for your company, and first impressions matter a lot. So first off, consider whether or not your job description is accurate. Are you using one that someone else created or one that's been passed along from manager to manager? You need to make sure that the job description for the role that you're hiring for is accurate to the actual job. It's a K2 and even encouraged to review and edit job descriptions on a recurring basis, maybe even explore having a regular cadence of refreshing your job descriptions. We know that roles and responsibilities in any position can evolve naturally over time. So it's essential to first and foremost make sure that the description aligns with where the current role is at. If it's not, you're not only setting the candidate up for potential failure upon hire, but you're also setting your hiring process up for more confusion and more questions and more misunderstandings than necessary. A little pro tip that we have, have an external resource review. Does your job description leave them with more questions, or does it outline the role effectively? Would someone who has no prior knowledge to your company beforehand be able to fully understand the requirements and the responsibilities for the role? It's easy when you're in, you're in the thick of it, you're in your company, your company, and you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense, but would it make sense to someone who doesn't have that internal knowledge of your company? And Stephanie, I'm curious, what are some key focal points that someone would look out for when conducting an external review on a job description?
Yeah, that's a great question, Savannah. So some things that come to mind would be, what are the requirements of the job? I think even having a little about us section, so the person that's applying truly understands what the organization is about, what are they doing, even kind of what their company culture is too. I think that is a big factor nowadays. As you mentioned earlier, salary, everybody wants to know how much they're going to get paid. So definitely reviewing that and including that information. And then also tangible job requirements. So going back to what you said earlier too, Savannah, about making sure that the job description is clear and they're really understanding what it is that they're applying for. I think reviewing those pieces are definitely top of the list. That comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great insight. And with that, your job description should answer expected and necessary questions. There's so much research out there on the questions candidates have once they look at a job description, from compensation to culture. Candidates have questions that they want answered way before applying. If you answer some of those questions in the job description, you're starting to make the most of that description and streamline your communication efforts right off the bat. You're preemptively answering the most common questions that your hiring manager receives, you'll end up saving more time in the end and sourcing candidates who are more accurately aligned with the role. So, collaborate with your hiring managers, pick their brain, ask them, what are these candidates wanting to know? Because you have that first discovery call with a potential candidate and they're getting questions, and it's been a while since I've been on the candidate side, but there's certain aspects to a job that a candidate wants to know before they put in the effort and the energy to apply for a role and interview for a role. So collaborate with your teams who are directly communicating with your candidates and find out what some of these most commonly asked questions are, so you can preemptively answer them into your job description. And then last thing, and then I'll get off I'll get off my soapbox for my job description rant. You know, job descriptions, they don't have to be hard. They also don't need to be boring, dare I say, and vague. Presumably you're proud of your company's accomplishments and you love working there, so communicate that to potential candidates with a description that feels, generous and inclusive and welcoming and excited. You want candidates to read your job description and feel excited and intrigued with your company. Once you have the specifics of the role jotted down, you can even utilize some basic AI tools to spruce it up a bit and make the description more inviting, like ChatGPT. I use it when I have everything I need down, and I'm like, all right, maybe I don't have the capacity to kind of make this a little more exciting. So I'll put my information, into ChatGPT, and it's a great tool to enhance what you already know. So maybe explore those options as well. I've definitely done it here on my end, and it's helped me a lot. All right. Communicating often and quickly. So, in a world where information is so readily available at our fingertips, it's caused a culture of wanting answers and information like now, as quickly as possible. And while we don't want to run ourselves dry to be readily available to anyone and everyone to respond at any given moment, I mean, no human has that capacity to, just be on all the time. There are things that we can do to ensure that our communication with candidates is consistent and efficient. So what does it look like to communicate often and quickly? And, who does this include? So communicating often and quickly is not only with your applicant, but you're hiring internal managers and departments as well. For starters, though, your applicant. Transparency is key. 84% of candidates expect an email response early in the hiring process. So it's crucial that you're engaging with them early on in the hiring process. But I just want to throw out another option for you as well, texting. So 90% of people reply to their text within a half an hour, and 70% of those people will view a text within 5 minutes or less. As much as we don't want to admit it, at least as much as I don't want to admit it, I have my phone on me all the time, much more so than my laptop or a desktop computer. So, being able to have that accessible communication with your candidates is key for keeping that communication streamlined and consistent. So if you've gotten consent for text communication early on, you've got a great opportunity to reach out via text, and probably in addition to slower paced emails. And ensure that an applicant knows where they are in the hiring process at all times. If you're handling multiple candidates, as we're sure you all are, then make sure your text solution is supporting you. Automated emails or updates can be sent on behalf of you to ensure constant and quick communication is occurring. You don't want a candidate to be, sitting there for days or weeks on end with no form of communication from you, whether you have an update or not. Because one, they may just forget, or two, they may not, think that you're invested in them as much as they are in you. So keeping that communication recurring is key to keeping your candidates engaged.
Those are really great points, Savannah, and great to make sure that we're communicating effectively to the applicants. I think another layer to that too is making sure that you as the hiring individual are communicating to other managers and departments, just to really make sure that they know where that candidate's at in the hiring process. So really, when you're wanting someone in the seat and then not communicating where they're at, are they really a good fit? You're kind of working backwards and maybe starting from scratch. So I know, for me and the role that I am, making sure communicating to your teammates, but other departments, other leadership, just really keeping open communication. So if those candidates are talking to the actual, hiring manager, someone that they're going to be reporting to, that manager feels really equipped and prepared to, ask the right questions of that candidate. So you guys aren't having to essentially start from scratch and do the hiring process all over again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that transparency within your internal team really is key. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of talking to multiple people as a candidate, talking to multiple people within a company, and nothing's more confusing and honestly frustrating than talking to multiple people and getting different answers. So making sure that everyone is on the same page in your internal teams is key to providing a good candidate experience, I think. And I can vouch for that from personal experience as well. As we get into the technology aspect of streamlining communication, I want to kick off a quick poll question just for fun. We like to kind of gauge, things change year over year with companies in the HR tech space, and we like to gauge, what are the focal points for these organizations? What are you looking to replace? So let me get this poll question launched here, and I'd love if you'd be able to participate in it. So what areas of technology are you looking to replace within the next 3 months? And you should have the option to select multiple. I'll give it maybe 30 seconds or so, and then we'll walk through whatever the results are.
I always feel like I'm gambling when we do poll questions because I'm like, I think this is going to be the response, and then I'm totally wrong.
Right.
So it's like a free way to gamble.
Exactly. All right.
Oh,
We'll
you guys
give
are
it
doing great responding.
All right. We'll get a few more votes in there, and then I'll go ahead and close it out. We'll view the results. All right. Let's see here. We've got, all right. So first and foremost, this is amazing news for, Namely, because if you're here today, you're probably with Namely. And I love to see that satisfaction with your technology that you currently have in place. So about 55% are not looking for any replacements, but we have, applicant tracking and CRMs up in the top. And it just goes to show that, I think that first and foremost candidate onboarding experience and how effective and how efficient and streamlined it is key to increasing your retention and increasing your employee satisfaction. So that's really interesting for me to see. Steph, what are your thoughts on the poll question?
Yeah, again, I was wrong. I didn't think no replacements would be as high.
It's great. Everyone's satisfied with the technology that you currently use. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, that is great. And in some other webinars we've done, usually I-9 or E-Verify is a little bit higher up on the list, so that one surprised me as well. But yeah, nonetheless, that was great feedback that you guys have given us, and we appreciate you participating in that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's kind of touch base on pre-employment screening. So, it is a major role in the hiring process, and it plays an important role in the candidate experience as well. But it also reveals just how streamlined communication is, as it's often the last step before you fully onboard and hire an individual. Each year, Verified First collaborates with industry-leading analyst Madeline Lorano. She's the co-founder from Aptitude Research. To understand the current and future trends of background screening and how it can impact sourcing and onboarding within your organization. So in our research with Aptitude Research, we found that over 80% of organizations use a background screening provider. And honestly, this isn't the biggest shocker. We all know the role that background screening can play in keeping your workplaces safe. May not be, and I can admit, it may not be the most exciting step of the candidate onboarding process, but it is one of the most necessary steps. Maybe you're required by your HR to screen your candidates, or maybe you work in an industry where it's necessary to screen or verify employment or verify licensing. Regardless, the idea of screening every single candidate that you send through the hiring process can seem not only daunting, but very time consuming as well. And of that 80% using a background screening provider, only 39% are screening for every single role that they are hiring for. So this is causing for major gaps in the streamlining of employee onboarding. If you're not screening for every role, it could not only impact the safety and security of your organization, but your applicants and your candidates. It may even, come across as discrimination if, you're screening a certain employee in one department, but the other one didn't get another employee in a different department didn't get screened. You want to keep it as consistent across the board as possible. And there's so many background screening providers out there, but finding a provider that integrates directly within your applicant tracking system, such as our integration with Namely, it can ensure that candidate screening does not slow down your hiring process, because I can be the first to admit that it can be daunting and it can be so time consuming, but it really does increase that safety and security of your organization and your hiring practices as well. So we'll get back into here. I'll let Stephanie take this slide off, or kick it off.
Wonderful. So some things to consider in the pre-employment screening process, and this is mostly related to your background screening provider. So the first thing we have here is branding. We really suggest that you make sure that your pre-employment screening partner that you have can help with branding and the communications that are getting sent out to the candidate. So really what branding does is it's going to ensure that your candidate knows that they're being requested to complete their background check. They don't have to think that this is possibly a spam email or a random third party asking for some really sensitive information. So branding is really crucial, because otherwise you might call a candidate asking, where they're at in the process. Do you have any questions on, the email I sent you about your background check? And they could be completely taken by surprise and not think that there was any communication sent over to them. So being able to brand any communications will definitely help recognition from the candidate's perspective. And then second, if you're able to create screening packages for your roles, that's going to help streamline the process, honestly, for you as the hiring individual or the recruiter. It'll also standardize your screening process to make sure that you are being consistent, like Savannah was suggesting, of screening everybody. If you have a package, and even if you have slightly different searches done for a manager versus an entry-level person, ensuring that every person in that role is getting screened the same is going to be super useful for your organization as well. And with those screening packages, you're also able to easily communicate with the hiring managers on what checks were done, and that way when they're reviewing the results, they kind of keep an eye out what they're looking for. So just to give you a little bit more specific situation versus a supervisor versus entry level, is someone that's going to be in the marketing department may have different searches done on their background check versus someone in finance. If someone in finance is obviously going to be handling money, you may need to check a couple different things on them than someone in marketing. But again, really kind of driving home that the consistency piece is really something we recommend. And then lastly, when we talk about streamlining communication, you have to really take into consideration where someone is. So we already touched on this, but a suggestion that we really recommend is making it mobile friendly. So I know a lot of applicant tracking and onboarding platforms have that text capability. So keeping that type of communication streamlined, if you're able to work with a background screening provider that can also send out communications via text message, that's going to make the candidate experience even that much better. And so this, again, just will allow your hiring process to kind of keep chugging along, and you're not having to kind of take a different step of communication depending on the platform that you're using.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of our features that gets the most kudos from our customers, is that texting feature. Because it just makes that communication so accessible with the candidate. It decreases those turnaround times. So we'll touch a little bit on the specifics of what that looks like, but especially in today's digital age, it's necessary to be able to communicate with your candidate in multiple different ways. So I want to get into automating and integrating your tech stack. So research from Aptitude Research found that 32% of ATSs are looking to companies are looking to consolidate their providers. So, I mean, think about it. The less your tech stack integrates together, the more platforms you're using, the more windows you have open, the more passwords you have to remember. And if you're anything like me, you forget your passwords all the time. I mean, I would rather remember 2 passwords compared to 10. So we've talked about streamlining communication on a human-to-human basis, but we need to consider streamlining the communication between programs you're using to onboard your employees. So developing a tech stack pertinent to your specific organization's needs that will allow you to keep those functions within the early stages of hiring onboarding centralized, can keep your talent acquisition team running efficiently, which in turn will help improve the candidate experience as well. And, going back to our report with Aptitude Research, found that 1 in 3 companies use more than 10 different recruitment solutions. So, you're thinking onboarding, you're thinking payroll, you're thinking assessments, you're thinking training modules, background screening. You can have so many different facets of software that you're using solely to onboard a candidate. And you want to make sure that they all seamlessly communicate with each other, or even better, they all integrate centralized with each other, and you don't have to go to multiple different platforms solely to onboard a candidate. So let's talk about experience a little bit. By integrating and tailoring your tech stack to your needs, you're creating a better experience for all your stakeholders, And when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about you and your team, from recruiters to HR specialists. You can truly streamline communication, simplify the number of passwords you need, etc. And additionally, stakeholders include your leadership team and other departments. When your systems talk to each other and are customized to your needs, the process it takes to get an employee in for, say, marketing or finance or any department will be completely transparent and transformed. So Stephanie, with that in mind, I want to pick your brain and ask, what are some measurable benefits you've seen from consolidating and simplifying your tech stack?
Yeah, my head just hurts for everybody if you really are using that many platforms. That stat gets me every time. But yeah, great question, Savannah. So a couple of things that we've found that you can benefit from by consolidating and simplifying the tech stack is the improved candidate experience. So if whether they're getting text messages or emails, for their process, if it's coming from one platform for a survey, another platform for a background check, all over, and then that branding piece isn't in there, it could be a little confusing for them too. So being able to have your tech stack do as many functions as possible is going to improve the candidate experience, but it will also improve productivity for your recruitment team. So you're able to know like the number of new hires you have, where they're at in the process, how quickly they can get onboarded, how many times you've done outreach to them, having a system that can track all of that for you, or again, multiple systems talking and being able to track that for you is going to be a benefit as well. And then that should really improve the quality of hire. You're going to have a better satisfaction on the people that are applying for the job. Hopefully you're able to, retain those employees, and you're going to get honestly a positive feedback from that candidate just by the tech stack alone being integrated. And the last thing that kind of comes to mind is it'll reduce costs for onboarding and hiring. So that would be great news, I'm sure, to like your CFO, that you guys are paying for less programs, especially if the programs that you do get integrated are free integration. That's, I'm sure, going to be music to people's ears. Wink, wink, verified first integration with is free. And therefore, you're spending less money on your recruitment and hopefully not having to go through the rehiring process so much, because I'm sure you all know that having to start back at square one and rehire somebody, essentially it costs time as well. So those are some points that I wanted to share to really get everybody to see the benefit of connecting those platforms together.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great insight, and I mean, who wouldn't want those improved quality of hires and productivity? especially with how volatile the job market is right now. People are moving, they're swapping jobs, hiring, people are coming in and out of organizations. If you have a way you can easily simplify your process, I mean, why wouldn't you do it,
Mhm.
All right. Let's see here. Now we're going to get into a bit of specifics, just touch on super briefly before I hop into the live demo and then our Q&A as well. This should be a very brief portion of today's webinar, I'm thinking maybe like 10 minutes or so. But a few benefits of our solution that we have integrated directly within Namely's platform. So as Stephanie so coyly alluded to earlier, with our integration, there are no integration fees. The connection to get the integration in Namely's platform is super quick. I'll walk through how to download that as well. You never have to leave your HR solution when you are screening your candidates. And with that comes, no yearly contracts, no minimum screen requirements. You're not, obligated to screen a certain amount of employees or run a certain amount of files. If you're using Verified First, you're genuinely just paying for what you're using. We have, our candidate status updates, which I'll walk through, customizable packages and a la carte orderings. We do have texting capabilities to candidates. And we are compliant as well. We're PBSA accredited, SOC 2 certified. We have an amazing team here that ensures that we're compliant in every state, county. Every location has different compliance. So we have an awesome team here. We're confident in the services we provide. And then, not to toot our own horn, but we do have a 98% client satisfaction rate as well, which is one of the highest out there, if not the highest out there. I can attest to it. Our client services team is just absolutely incredible, and they do a great job of making sure everyone's taken care of. Without dragging this on too much, let me get the Namely platform opened real quick, and I'll walk through a quick demo, and then we'll have ample time for a Q&A today. Make sure here, Steph, I'll have you be my eyes and let me know if you can see Mr. Hank.
Yes, you are good to go.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to walk through this real quick. So you can see I'm in Namely's platform. I'm under people, and I'm under one of our test candidates. And you'll see the button right here with Verified First. But actually, now that it's just triggering my mind, I'm going to show you how to get that button there. So it's available on a few different browsers. I am using Google Chrome. So what I'm going to do is go to the Chrome Web Store. And in this search function here in the top left, I'm just going to type in Verified First. And it will be the first one that pops up. And once you click on it, mine does say remove from Chrome right here, but it will say add to Chrome if you don't have it already installed. So you'll click add to Chrome, and then you'll see up here in the top right this little puzzle piece. That's where all of your extensions are housed if you have other extensions on there. So you'll see Verified First pop up, and what you're going to do is just click on it, and it'll ask you to allow user permissions, and that'll allow it to embed it into your Namely platform. And then you have the option to pin it as well. I keep mine pinned, but it'll pop up next to the puzzle piece, and since it is a browser extension, you can essentially open it on any window in Google Chrome. So although the button does show up directly within the Namely platform, let's say you're just on Google and you're like, oh, I want to check on the status of this file I ran, you can click on the extension and it'll pop up on just whatever web browser that you're on. So, but that's how you embed the button into your Namely platform, your login. So once we're here, we'll see the screen with Verified First, and we'll place a new order at the drop down, and you'll see it pop up kind of using this right quarter of the screen. So you're still in Namely's platform, you're still able to see everything in Hank's profile, but you're also able to just place your screen from right here within his profile as well. So it'll show your account. You have the option, as we mentioned earlier, to customize packages either based on, like new hire onboarding package or, rescreening packages, whatever is pertinent to your organization. But you can also customize packages based on positions as well. So if you have, a set chunk of screens that are specific to a specific role, you can compile those all together and just choose the position instead, and it'll automatically check all those screens for you. If you're not wanting to screen via position or a package, you can click the little pencil over here and it'll pop up every single one of the screens that we offer. So there's, over 100 different screens that we can run, and that number is growing daily of what we're able to run. So you can also order individually as well. We have 2 here. I'm gonna show you the function of our drug screening as well. So I'll go ahead and choose a drug screen for Mr. Hank. Another cool feature of our integration is that the personal contact information that's in Hank's profile and namely is automatically going to come over to, sorry, that was incorrect on my end. Automatically come over to the personal information here. So you have name, email. If there's a phone number in here, it'll show up here as well, but that was on me, user error. I did not enter a phone number for Hank, so it didn't come over. And then the state in which the employee is located. So from here, I'm going to show you 2 different options. So the best option and the quickest option is to send the secondary initiation of the screen to the employee. So we're going to send the invite, and that's going to allow them to fill out their PII, their social, their date of birth, their address. If you either don't have that or you're onboarding multiple employees and you're just like, I simply don't have the time to manually enter this in on my own, so I'm going to send these invites out to the candidates. And this allows them to electronically sign all their authorization forms as well. So I'll walk through that. You have the option once you initiate sending the invitation to either auto order or manually order the report. So once the candidate completes their portion, it can auto trigger that to be processed over to our team, or you can get notified via email that they've completed their portion, and then you can go in and submit the order. So I'll choose auto order because we are doing drug testing. We do have to choose a reason for that. It's usually pre-employment. And then here's where you have the option to send the invitation via email or phone. And then you can also include a list of the ordered products as well if you would like to notify the candidate of exactly what you're screening them for. So you have the option here, and then you would go ahead and click next and send that invite out to the individual. So like I said, our texting capability is one of our most efficient features that we have. It's, our internal research has found that it's reduced turnaround times by about 8 hours. That candidate will get that text immediately, and a hyperlink will be in that text, and it takes them to a mobile-friendly version to enter in all of their information, to sign their authorization forms. They're not sitting there zooming out on a big authorization form trying to sign it electronically on their phone. It's all mobile friendly, and it's super quick to complete. And that's one of our highly rated features that we have in our integration. I'll walk through very, very briefly. Let's say you have all the information you need and you just want to fill it out and complete the background check. So here you'll enter in the candidate's personal information. I'll enter in a fake social. At least I always hope that it's a fake social and no one's social is actually this. I don't think it is. Their date of birth, and then you will do their address as well, and then their zip code. All right, Hank lives in New York today. Here as well, you'll also get a notification that if you have previously screened a candidate within the last 90 days. So if you have multiple people within your organization hiring and onboarding, this is just another way to streamline that communication. Oh, Mary over here already screened this candidate. It'll show you who the file owner is. So I don't need to go in and screen them. They've already, had their background screen processed. You can view all the reports here as well and view the status of them as well. So that'll, one, prevent duplicate screens from being ran, but also prevent you from paying multiple times to screen your employees as well. So it's just another form of checks and balances. So you'll confirm that I've reviewed them all and I still wish to continue. So in our integration as well, you can also completely order your drug screening as well. So we will choose pre-employment like we chose before, and then our function, you can choose the zip code and radius of testing facilities that you want to search for. So I'm going to hit find collection sites, and whether you enter in an address and zip code, you want your candidates to all go to the same location, you can find it in there, or if you want, the candidate to be able to choose what location is most convenient for them, you can enter in their zip code as well, and it'll show all of the hours of operations, the distance, the address. So we'll go ahead and choose one, and you can do an expiration date and time. So whether your organization's policy is 48 hours to go initiate this, or you give them a week, you can adjust that here as well. And once you've completed this portion of the background check, that data is going to go to that testing facility that you chose. It's going to include your organization, verified first, the employee information. So all the employee has to, or all the candidate has to do is show up and complete the test. And then we have an order summary page where it'll review. And then right here as well, if you've already previously collected those authorization forms to run a background check, you can upload those as well as additional documents such as a copy of their identification. And then we'll go ahead and submit the order. So now the order was successfully created. You do get this is a testing account, and so we're not actually running anything. So it'll say file ETA less than 1 day because we're not actually doing anything. But you'll get an in-progress report and an ETA of when you will expect to get the report back. And then here you'll notice that the button in which you place the order in will act as a status update as well. So it'll say file processing, which is it just did, and then it'll say report pending. And then once everything's been completed on our end, we send the results directly back to the candidate's profile in Namely, and it'll say report completed, and you're able to view the report on this drop down right here. And we don't have a completed report yet, but this drop down here, you can view it as a PDF, you can download it if you house these reports somewhere else in your system, but it's going to live in the candidate's profile, and you never have to leave the Namely platform to order and receive the results. And I think that covered, unless Stephanie, you have anything that you want to add that I may have missed, but I think that covers the basis of our integration with Namely. I'll get back to my other page. If you want to add anything, please feel free.
I do have two quick things. You did a great job at just some kind of extra pieces of information. So, and it ties back to our streamlining communication topic. If you choose the applicant invite route, the applicant is essentially going to be filling out all of those additional screens that Savannah walked us through. But our system can also send reminder emails to the applicant to say, hey, don't forget, you need to fill everything out. So you guys don't have to worry about doing any follow-up if you choose to send that invite to the candidate to fill everything out. So that's an additional feature to help with communication. And then the other piece was, the other piece is that if you already have a couple systems that you're using for the hiring and onboarding piece. So if you have a separate applicant tracking system that is feeding into Namely, chances are we are integrated in that platform as well. So when you download that extension, if you go into the ATS, you'll see that button. So if you want to order when they're in that system, you can, or if you hop over into the Namely platform and need to do the background check at that step in the process, the button's already there for you because it's really essentially downloaded on your computer. So that's also kind of the beauty of that type of integration as well. If you do have to use multiple platforms, we may be integrated with some other ones as well, just to help your process. So those are my other comments.
Perfect, thank you. Awesome, and that brings us to our Q&A. If you have questions and you haven't submitted them, please feel free to. And if we haven't answered all of your questions in today's presentation, please feel free to reach out. We have our website there, our contact phone number, and then also the partner @ email as well. That's an email that goes to me and every single member of the partner management team at Verified First. So if you have questions that come up, please feel free to utilize that email as well. We can definitely route your questions to the correct individuals. Let me see here. We have a couple questions here. We have a question from Joseph. Which is the best practice of communicating with a candidate in a credible manner? I can kind of touch on this, and Steph, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. It is dependent on your organization, you know, your preferred methods of communication. Personally, I prefer to have everything, you know, on text. So whether that's email, whether that's texting, I like to have it more so in writing, just so, you know, if you're talking on the phone to a candidate, which again is very great to do because it's a bit more personalized than just a text or an email. But especially if you're talking about specifics of, you know, the role they're applying for, the company, I prefer to have everything communicated in a way that I can go back and reference it. So I'm not, you know, coming up with new questions over and over and over again. Steph, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that as well.
You know, I was taking a peek at Joseph's question earlier and trying to come up with an answer, to be honest. I actually would, I do agree with you, Savannah. I think definitely having some things in writing, because from the candidate experience, if they're applying for a bunch of different jobs, they may not remember all of the answers that were said to them over the phone. So following up with, you know, an email, I would say even, you know, branding in the email too, or making sure the subject line doesn't look like it is spam. I'm honestly curious what others on the webinar today feel like. You know, that's a great question. I just don't know if I'm very equipped to answer that because I'm not in that seat. So
Yeah.
I'm going to actually kind of put it back on everybody else. If they have some suggestions for Joseph, I would love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, I have another question right here. What does implementation look like? So let's see. So once you're onboarded with Verified First, what does it look like to get set up? So we have an amazing implementation team here. Basically what you do is, you know, once the, you know, MSA is signed, you're signed up, you have your login, you get a one-on-one personalized onboarding call with someone on our implementation team. Well, they'll walk you through the portal and exactly where to find all reporting, where to find user permissions, how to order. They'll walk you through each step of our portal, and that's a one call implementation onboarding. Scheduling, I'd say we average about, you know, maybe 5 to 7 days to onboard, but that's mostly due to calendars and scheduling availability. So the onboarding process and the implementation process of getting set up with Verified First really is a quite simplified process. And you do get that one-on-one support to make sure that you're well prepared to begin screening your candidates as well. And then we also have our ongoing support as well. So we have, you know, a chat function on our website. We have multiple emails for client services, partnerships, or the partner management team. You can get someone on the phone, a real person. I mean, we do have those options for like automated answering, but it's quite simple to get a hold of a real human being here, and that's what we pride ourselves in, because although it's nice to have quick answers via, you know, a resource or a help article, you can't replicate and replace that human to human customer service. And that's really what we pride ourselves on here at Verified First. And I'm confident in our team to be able to do so. Last question I have, unless Stephanie, you wanted to add anything to that into implementation, but the last question I have is a question on pricing. So what does pricing look like? This is more of a nuanced answer per se. It's customized to organizations. So as I mentioned earlier, we offer over 100 different services. We're extremely competitive in our pricing. We're right in line with those in the industry. And our integration is 100% free, which is where we kind of have a lot of leeway as well. So you're only paying for exactly what you purchase. And it's important to keep in mind too that, you know, each state and each county, they have their different processing fees. You know, when we're reaching out to courthouses, they have their different processing fees. You know, it's not going to cost the same to run a Social Security or a criminal background check in Florida as it is New York City. You know, it's going to be different processing fees, but I'm confident in our ability to, we've pricing is never really a blocker when it comes to be able to provide services. Our sales team here is impeccable at tailoring, pricing to your specific organization's needs, because it's not a one size fits all thing. As much as we want it to be, it's just not. And so our sales team, prides themselves on being able to customize pricing specific to your organization, your needs, and where you're at right now. Stephanie, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, just I guess the only thing would be, the reason why we don't have that set pricing is we don't want to put all of our clients into a box and paying for something they don't necessarily need. And we just really want to take that personal kind of white glove approach to making sure that we're giving you the services at the price that you're looking for.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, I know we're ending a little bit early, but that is all the questions we have. I want to say thank you to everyone who was able to join us today and walk through this presentation and demo in partnership with Namely. And on that note, thank you so much to Namely for being such a valued Verified First partner and collaborating with us on today's webinar. Before everyone hops off, I would like to invite you to stick around for a brief post-webinar survey. I personally and Verified First would love any and all feedback that you thought about today's presentation. It'll pop up as soon as I end today's webinar, so I invite you to fill that out. It'll just take a minute or so. And I'd like to thank you, Stephanie, for joining us today as well. I enjoyed having you, dare I say, as my panelist for today, my special guest for today. And I had a great time talking with you and presenting to the Namely audience. And I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Thursday.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Enjoy your day.
Bye.